look, all I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have, because we won the state, and flipping the state is a great testament to our country, because, you know, and there's just, it's a testament that they can admit to a mistake, or whatever you want to call it, if it was a mistake. I don't know.
If we could just go over some of the numbers, I think it's pretty clear that we won. We won very substantially, Georgia. We have at least two or three, anywhere from 250 to 300,000 ballots were dropped mysteriously into the rolls. Much of that had to do with Fulton County.
Hello everyone, it's Queen V Line back to you with another video. This video pertains to the state of Georgia versus Donald Trump and 18 of his co-conspirators as it pertains to their actions trying to overturn the presidential elections back in 2020. These are serious charges which include violation of the Georgia RICO Act, also known as the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organizations Act, false statements in writing, solicitation of violation of oath by public office, forgery in the first degree, criminal attempt to commit false statements in writings, forgery in the first degree, influencing witnesses, conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit computer theft, and perjury, to name a few. Each of these defendants have until August 25th, 2023 at noon to voluntarily turn themselves in which a trial date should be set within the next 6 months. In addition, Trump himself faces 13 counts in the 41-count indictment, which include the violation of the Georgia RICO Act, solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, conspiracy to commit filing false statements and writings, to name a few, which brings to the total of 4 indictments, tallying up over 90 counts. Now, let me highlight some of Trump's co-conspirators in this case. First, let us start off with Sindy Powell. Powell was Trump's former attorney, and she faces counts 1, 32 to 37. They include the violation of the Georgia RICO Act, conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit computer theft, conspiracy to commit computer trespass, and conspiracy to defraud the state of Georgia, as previously reported last year, when surveillance video showed former CoffeeCounty GOP Cathy Latham leading a group of data collectors into the election office. On the same day, investigators reported a massive breach of the election server and voting machines. Those data collectors worked for Sidney Powell. Speaking of the former CoffeeCounty GOP chair Cathy Latham, she too was indicted on several charges, which include the violation of Georgia's RICO Act, count 10 of impersonating a public officer, count 10 forgery in the first degree, count 12 false statements in writing, count 14 criminal attempt to commit filing false documents, and counts 32 to 37, which include conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit computer theft, and conspiracy to defraud. Another former CoffeeCounty official, Misty Hampton, who was the election director, faces counts which include the Georgia RICO Act, conspiracy to commit election fraud, conspiracy to commit computer trespass, conspiracy to commit computer invasion of privacy, and conspiracy to defraud the state of Georgia. As previously reported, when this story broke last year, it showcased how employees were showcasing Dominion voting machine flaws, which was uploaded on December 9th, 2020, weeks before the 1/6 attack. Now you will watch this press conference led by DA Fani Willis, and I will be back with my commentary.
Thank you for joining us. I'm here with the prosecutors and investigators who have worked diligently on the investigation of criminal attempts to interfere in the administration of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Today, based on information developed by that investigation, a Fulton County Grand Jury returned a true bill of indictment, charging 19 individuals with violations of Georgia law arising from a criminal conspiracy to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in this state. The indictment includes 41 felony counts and is 97 pages long. Please remember that everyone charged in this bill of indictment is presumed innocent. Specifically, the indictment brings felony charges against Donald John Trump, Rudolph William Louis Giuliani, John Charles Eastman, Mark Randall Meadows, John Cheeseborough, Jeffrey Clark, Jenna Lynn Ellis, Ray Stallings Smith III, Robert David Cheeley, Michael A. Roman, David James Schaefer, Sean Micah Tresher Steele, Stephen Cliffgard Lee, Harrison William Prescott Floyd, Travion C. Cootie, Sydney Catherine Powell, Kathleen Austin Latham, Scott Graham Hall, and Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. Every individual charged in the indictment is charged with 1 count of violating Georgia's Racketeer, Influenced, and Corrupt Organizations Act through participation in a criminal enterprise in Fulton County, Georgia, and elsewhere to accomplish the illegal goal of allowing Donald J. Trump to seize the presidential term of office beginning on January 20th, 21. Specifically, the participants in association took various actions in Georgia and elsewhere to block the counting of the votes of the presidential electors who were certified as the winners of Georgia's 2020 general election. As you examine the indictment, you will see acts that are identified as overt acts and those that are identified as predicate acts, sometimes called acts of racketeering activity. Overt acts are not necessarily crimes under Georgia law in isolation, but are alleged to be acts taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. Many occurred in Georgia, and some occurred in other jurisdictions and are included because the grand jury believes they were part of the illegal effort to overturn the results of Georgia's 2020 presidential election. The acts identified as predicate acts or acts of racketeering activity are crimes that are alleged to have been committed in furtherance of the criminal enterprise. Acts of racketeering activity are also charged as separate counts in the indictment against those who are alleged to have committed them. All elections in our nation are administered by these states, which are given the responsibility of ensuring a fair process and an accurate counting of the votes. That includes elections for presidential electors, Congress, state officials, and local offices. The state's role in this process is essential to the functioning of our democracy. Georgia, like every state, has laws that allow those who believe that results of an election are wrong, whether because of intentional wrongdoing or unintentional error, to challenge those results in our state courts. The indictment alleges that rather than abide by Georgia's legal process for election challenges, the defendants engaged in a criminal racketeering enterprise to overturn Georgia's presidential election result. Subsequent to the indictment, as is the normal process in Georgia law, the grand jury issued arrest warrants for those who are charged. I am giving the defendants the opportunity to voluntarily surrender no later than noon on Friday, the 25th day of August, 2023. I remind everyone here that an indictment is only a series of allegations based on a grand jury's determination of probable cause to support the charges. It is now the duty of my office to prove these charges in the indictment beyond a reasonable doubt at trial. I would like to take a moment to thank the Superior Court Clerk, Shay Alexander, and her staff for staying late and making sure that this indictment was processed. I would also like to thank the men and women of Sheriff Labatt's office for keeping the courthouse open, but most importantly for keeping us safe over the weeks and months that have led up to this indictment, and for what I know they will continue to do to keep us safe. We also want to thank the Atlanta Police Department and other law enforcement partners who have worked with the sheriff to keep us safe.
I am not surprised by these charges against Trump and his co-conspirators, as the now 4 times indicted with over 90 plus counts, twice impeached, 1-term grifter, loser, now liable for abuse, is once again being held accountable for his actions, while his party, the Guardians of Putin, wants us, the American people, to move on. If what Trump did and his other co-conspirators had done these very same actions in another country, we would be calling for those persons to be held accountable. And this is why Trump and his co-conspirators need to be held accountable for their actions, because they were trying to take the will of the people, rights away to vote. I've said this before and I will say it again. If my vote and your vote are non-factors, then why are these same congresspersons are finding ways to blocking our rights to vote? We are in a state of an emergency, and it is up to all of us, the American people, to ensure that persons who conspired to overturning the will of the people, our rights to vote, to be held accountable, regardless of their positions or former titles. This is not the time to look away, and we must not forget what occurred on 1/6/2021. The Guardians of Putin have made it perfectly clear that they will steal democracy in real time and are continuously trying to take away our democracy right before our eyes. Make your voice count, not only in general elections, but local and state elections, as it does have an impact. And as always, elections have consequences. Elections matter. I thank you for watching, and as always, please be safe out here, and I will see you in the next video.